So now that it's in standard form, we know that there's the degree is 2 and the number of terms are 3 because there are 3 sections split by a plus or minus sign. Now we can do bottoms up to factors. So this is what quite a few of us missed on that snapshot that we just took. Well, I guess the ones that got graded in second block, but the A times C bottoms up method is how we factor quadratics, okay? So the first step, is there a GCF of 3, 14, and 5? No, so we'll skip steps 1 and step 2. We're basically going to go down to step 3, and that's where we start with A times C. So A times C is going to give me what? Negative 15. Now the next step, we have to find the factors of negative 15 that add up to negative 14. Yeah, it would be negative 15 and positive 1, right? To add up to negative 14. So then those are the numbers that go into our factors after x. So x minus 15 and x plus 1. Now we're not done yet. The whole point of factoring is to basically unfoil. Remember FOIL from middle school? We're trying to unfoil. So if I foiled this out, would it take me back to where I started? No, we don't have a 3 there. We need a 3 somehow. So the way we get that is we divide by a. And that is which of the steps? So divide by a is step 6. So now we're on step 6. So it looks like a lot of steps, but it goes pretty fast once you get the hang of it. It's just really detailed on that sheet. So we will divide by 3. Both of those numbers you just put into there, we're going to divide by 3. That's a. Step 7 is a very important one. It's simplify. So 15 divided by 3 is just 5. And then what happens if that fraction doesn't simplify? Bottoms up. That's how it gets its name. We take the bottom of the fraction and we move it up to the front of the factor. So our final answer would be x minus 5 times 3x plus 1. Now to solve, was there an equal sign here? No, it's not an equation, right? But if there was an equal sign and it asked me to solve, that's where you would do step 9. It's on the back of the bottoms up page. It's that one extra step where you set the factors equal to 0 and solve for x, the easy part, but something to remember. All right. Now, the whole point of today, we have to do 6 problems. And then I'm going to give you some time to work on your pretest. We need to review rationals. Because the last thing on this test that we haven't studied yet is rationals, okay? So I know this is a lot to write down. Go ahead and write down 1a real quick on your own. So pretty much, anytime you see a rational function, which what does rational mean? Anything that can be written as a fraction. So it's basically saying it's a fractional expression here. And you see a quadratic, factor it. Your brain, if you ever see a quadratic for this test, just think factor, 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 okay? So let's factor the numerator. What factors of, now a is just 1, so what factors of negative 6 add up to 5? Positive 6 and negative 1. Positive 6 and negative 1. Now in this case, do I need to do the whole bottoms up part of the factoring? Why? Yeah, a is 1. If I divide both by 1, is that going to change anything? No, so this is like a really easy form of factoring. So same thing on the bottom. What factors of negative 2 are going to add up to positive 1? Good, negative 1 and positive 2. Yep. Now notice the whole point of factoring, another way to say factor is multiply, right? Factors are multiplied together to give us a number or a polynomial. Anything that is multiplied can be undone by division. And we just happen to have a fraction, right? This is a fraction, which is division. So anytime a factor occurs on the top and also occurs on the bottom, it cancels. Because x minus 1 divided by x minus 1 is just 1. Cancels out. So your answer is what doesn't cancel. So x plus 6. And I don't need the parentheses anymore because it's not being multiplied. So x plus 6 over x plus 2. Now, every year I have people do this. They cancel these, and then they say 6 divided by 2 is 3. That's their answer. Why can I not cancel these x's?
There's no multiplication between them.
Awesome, that's exactly right. Those are added, right? X plus 6. Can you undo addition by dividing? No, it has to be multiplied. That's why you can only cancel factors that are multiplied together. You can't just cancel the x that's added to something else. So be careful of that, okay? Give 1b a go on your own. It's very, very similar. So go ahead and copy down 1b and give that one a try. So the way we factor a difference of squares is we break it apart into 2 factors. One's plus, one's minus, and we take the square roots of a and b. So what times what is x squared? And what times what is 16? 4. And then obviously x plus 5 is chillin' over. On the bottom, we have, we can do a little bottoms up quadratic a times c right here. What factors of negative 5 add up to 4? Positive 5, negative 1. And then obviously the x plus 4 is just chilling. Now it's the fun part. It just cuts a whole bunch of stuff out. So x plus 5's cancel. Doesn't matter where they're at, right? It's all multiplication. Does the order of multiplication matter at all? No, 2 times 3 is the same thing as 3 times 2. So those cancel. The x plus 4's cancel. So the only thing left is x minus 4 over x minus 1. How many you got it? Good. All right, so adding and subtracting fractions. Let's say back in 2nd grade, I had 2/3 minus 1/3. How do we add and subtract? First step, we get a common denominator. And then once the common denominator is common, it stays common, right? That's the whole point. It stays the same. And then what do we do to the numerators? Yeah, we add or subtract. So in this case, what's 2 minus 1? 1. So 2/3 minus 1/3 is 1/3, okay? Same thing, we just have rational polynomials here. So the denominators are already common. So my answer is going to be over x minus 3. We already know that. It stays the same. Now, this one's a little bit more difficult because of the minus sign, and a lot of you were messing this up on your snapshot as I was walking around, the subtracting polynomials. You have to be careful because there's more going on than just the x's. This is 4x minus, and then there's numerous things that are being subtracted, right? 2x minus 8. So that's how I would write out that numerator. We're subtracting all of 2x minus 8. It's not in parentheses technically, but they're tied together with a minus sign. So we will group them together. And they both come after the minus sign. So what do I have to do here?
Distribute the minus.
Yeah, you have to subtract both things. So really this is 4x minus 2x, but then minus negative 8 is actually going to give us a plus 8. That's the most common mistake right there, is missing the 8.
Could you just add like a plus 0 to 4x?
You can. And then it's just 0 minus negative 8 is positive 8. And now how will that red simplify there? 2x plus 8. And that is your numerator. Now you have to be careful. Sometimes after doing that, you can simplify. You can cancel something. So I always simplify the numerator. This is a good review from last class. What can I pull out of 2x plus 8? A 2, which leaves behind x plus 4. So obviously that's not the same thing as the denominator, and the signs were different. But if that ended up being the same as x minus 3, they would cancel and your answer would just be 2. So be careful. Sometimes that does happen. So this would probably be your best answer. Go ahead and simplify the top. Pull out a GCF if there's a GCF to pull out. See if it can match the bottom. If it's not, just leave it the way it is. Mm-hmm. So factoring the denominator. Over here we have another difference of squares. How do we break apart a difference of squares? One's plus, one's minus. They're both x's. Now one's a perfect square. What times what is 1? 1.
Oh,
So now it's easier to compare our denominators. It's easy to see what's missing because we do have to come up with a common denominator, right? So you cannot make any denominators smaller. You can only make them bigger, okay? So what does this denominator not have that this one does? An x minus 1. So what we have to do is we have to multiply the top and the bottom by that missing factor. The left side did not have an x minus 1, so we have to multiply the top and the bottom by that missing factor. Now, what does the right fraction not have that the left one does? Another x plus 1, right? So I need to multiply this one by x plus 1 on top and bottom. So we're getting a common denominator. So now we know the answer of our denominator. The denominator stays the same. But real quick, what's a shorter way to write this? Good. X plus 1 quantity squared. X minus 1. So that is our common denominator. And now we just need to add our numerators. So this one's pretty easy because we're just multiplying by 1. So these numerators come out to, I'll write it over here, x minus 1 plus x plus 1. That's just what I'm adding together, the two numerators. So x plus x is 2x, and then negative 1 plus 1 are going to cancel, right?
You just canceled like your right side.
Where at?
I don't know.
So this is just the numerators. So I got the common denominators the same,
Yeah,
and then I'm adding across, technically you would distribute here, but it's just a 1, right? So 1 times x is x minus 1 plus x plus 1. So this is what the numerators come out to. And then I'm just combining like terms. So x plus x is 2x, the 1's cancel. And nothing cancels here, right? I don't have a factor on top that's the same as the one on the bottom. So this is actually our answer. Is we're going to cross multiply. So 2 times x minus 1. Now you need to put x minus 1 in parentheses because it's 2 times all of x minus 1 equals so 3 times x plus 4. And now we need to distribute. So we get 2x minus 2 equals 3x plus 12. Now we're home sailing, smooth sailing. So subtract 2x over, we get x equals, subtract 12 over, we get 14. So x equals negative 14. What is the square root of negative 4? The square root of negative 4. Well, another way of thinking about that is the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 4. Right? And what's the square root of negative 1? I. And what's the square root of 4? So we would say 2i. So the first thing I would do is I would FOIL this out. So what is 1 times 3? 3. What is 1 times negative I? Negative 1i. So then we just combine our like terms. What's negative I plus 12i's? I squared simplifies to negative 1. This is really plus 4, which I can combine.